Costa del Sol, which means sunny beach, is the most characteristically Spanish region of the Iberian Peninsula, together with the hinterland and the ancient Andalusia. The name Andalusia comes from the Arabic Al-Andalus, or Western Land. It was called this by the Moors who ruled here for 800 years and left such buildings behind as the Alcazar or the Alhambra. Andalusia, rich in historic buildings and beauties of nature, supplies Costa del Sol with a cultural background just as the Provence does for the French Riviera. A vacationer in Malaga or Marbella can easily take a day trip to Granada, Seville, Gibraltar, or even Morocco. It's no wonder that the ancient Greeks placed the Garden of the Hesperides, with the golden apples of immortality, in this fertile region. This area was a source of the Roman Empire's gold. Hannibal purchased the ore he needed for his drive here, and this was the starting point for Columbus to explore the New World. The shore of the Mediterranean Sea, from Almeria to Algeciras, is one single 300-kilometer beach. Masses of people from central and northern parts of Europe flock to the sunbathing seaside paradise all year round. The capital of Costa del Sol, Malaga, was built in the middle of the coast. The settlement, boasting 500,000 inhabitants, is not only the largest in the vicinity, but also one of the most beautiful. From the medieval citadel, Gibraltar, the whole city can be overviewed, so the bed of the river Guadalmedina, which is dry all year, can be seen, and that the old town, including the main sites, is squeezed into a relatively small area in front of the harbor. A subtropical garden runs between the old town and the harbor. We can sit around on the park's benches among evergreens, mimosas, oleanders, and agaves. Palm trees line the two sides of the promenade. This is where the cabs start their sightseeing tours. And pigeons still waddle on the peaceful square of the Plaza de la Merced, framed with old houses that the most famous native of the city, Pablo Picasso, liked to portray in his paintings. The former Museum of Fine Arts in Malaga was transformed to the Picasso Museum in the Buena Vista Palace, and everything about art can be found here: books, albums, and videos. Picasso was born in the autumn of 1881 in the small old town house opposite the Alcazaba that is now being renovated by the foundation administrating his estate. His desk, tools, and all the objects and documents that demonstrate the creative periods of the life of the master painter will be exhibited here. The most significant site of the old town is the Alcazaba, which can be considered the lower castle of Gibraltar. This monument of Spanish-Arabic architecture was originally built for defense against the pirates in 1040. It was expanded with quadrangular towers with royal suites formed in them. In its golden age, it had 110 towers, several baths, and mosques. Its renovation started in 1933, and this was the time when the Archaeology Museum was established. The ancient artifacts of the Malaga area can be seen here. Its intimate inner yards surrounded by high walls, its fountains, the rich greenery of its gardens, its flowers, and the view over the old town attract visitors year-round. The city, founded by the Phoenicians, developed to a port by the Romans, and enriched with architectural monuments by the Moors, shows us its most beautiful face today. In 1995, an entire Roman amphitheater was excavated and reconstructed. The Teatro Romano and the pedestrian zone designed around it, together with the park, soon became the favorite of the locals. One of the charms of Spanish cities is the large number of richly green parks that ensure clean air, together with the likewise large amount of fountains. This park, for example, measures 30,000 square meters. Its adornments are the Neptune Well and the Well of the Three Graces. It's strange that a tourist haven like Malaga doesn't have a tourist harbor, but instead a huge port and a shipyard. The yacht harbor is not far off in Benalmadena. We shouldn't overlook some of the numerous beautiful buildings of the old town, such as the Ayuntamiento, the City Hall, the Classicist Aduana that was originally built to be a tobacco factory, the Miguel de Cervantes Theater, and the Casa de Consulado Palace, with its black and white marble portal and pillars. The main artery of the city is the Alameda Principal, the precinct running from the Botanical Garden to the river, where a stylish line of shops runs along the ground floor of a classicist row of houses. Local citizens call the Malagan cathedral La Maquita, that is, one-armed, since only one of its towers has been finished. It took 250 years, but the successive master builders created something everlasting. The designer, Diego de Siloé, dreamed of a church of monumental size, 117 meters long and 72 meters wide. The cathedral was erected on the place of the mosque of the city, taken back from the Arabs. The cross-vaulted church is considered an outstanding creation of the Renaissance, even though it's a mix of Baroque and Classicist styles. But this is not as important as taking delight in the richly decorated building. The reliefs above the door illustrate the two patron saints of the city, Saint Ciriaco and Saint Paula. The walls of the hall rest on huge Corinthian pillars, and the greatest South Spanish master builders worked on its inner space, such as Alonso Cano. It's unusual that the churchyard is not enclosed, so the building can be walked around entirely. The northern portal can be approached through an orange grove, and also the ancient feeling of the small square decorated with a fountain opposite to the main entrance is convincing. Malagans and foreigners like to sit out here for a chat. From here, you can see the details of the facade the best, and the variations in the position of the sun manifest themselves in the look of the building too. Besides the ordinary soft drinks available at cafes, it's worth trying out a specialty, horchata, almond milk. But the freshly squeezed juice of local sweet oranges is also delicious. Torremolinos and Benalmadena, which is practically melted into it, are perfect holiday sites, a citadel of recreation, sweet idleness, or active relaxation. Everything is subordinate to tourism here. There's no original Andalusian folklore nor monuments, but the twin cities, due to their central location, provide an ideal starting point to roam the area nonetheless. Torremolinos means mill tower. Few of the characteristic windmills can still be seen on the top of the hill the small town was named after. Only the houses of a few hundred fishermen stood in the port until the middle of the 20th century. Two businessmen with foresight bought up the insignificant area just 14 kilometers to the west of Malaga, where the largest resort town in Europe was established after the Second World War. Nearly 200 restaurants, 40 discotheques, and countless night bars, snack bars, and other places of entertainment welcome tourists crowding here from all over the world. First of all, of course, the sandy beach and sunshine attracts them. But today, there are more and more entertainment facilities. Those who are not satisfied with just sunbathing and water sports from dawn till dusk can visit some nearby amusement parks, such as the Tivoli theme park or the Selvo, divided into two sections. Tigers, lions, and other wild animals await visitors in the safari park, while dolphins and other water animals are in the Selvo Marina. Those who desire a more exciting and more Spanish sight can visit the arena of Benalmadena, the Plaza de Toros, where bullfights entertain the audience on Saturday afternoons. The most famed matadors of our days appear: Antonio Carvajal and Juan Miguel Sanchez. Those interested in this bloody sport should read Hemingway's Death in the Afternoon. We can also sail from the port of Torremolinos and watch marine life through a glass hull below deck. Naturally, numerous other water vehicles are also available, from beach canoes through pedalos and surfs to catamarans, jet skis, and cruise ships. The water park and the professional 18-hole golf course are also fun to use, or you can play on any of the mini-golf courses. The most beautiful beach of Torremolinos is the Playa de Cathedrals on the coast of the city with the same name. The Montemar district is known for its luxury villas, the San Miguel for its busy pedestrian and shopping precincts, where particularly gift shops, beach and jewelry shops, and boutiques line up. The Calle San Miguel ends at a 14th century Moor tower, after which a cliff separates the two popular beaches, the Playa Bayondia and the Playa Cathedrals. The center of nightlife is the Plaza del Sol, where most of the discotheques can be found, including Palladium, which also has a huge pool. The recently built yacht port of Benalmadena is a real gem. Its builders strived for the synthesis of Spanish Mediterranean architecture and Arabic Moor heritage, into which some Venetian flavor was introduced by the capriciously winding lagoons and the small bridges spanning them. Guests arriving can park their car on the dry side of their apartment, then depart from the other side with their yacht. Since yachts can't only be bought but also rented, this form of taking a holiday isn't that expensive after all, not as much as we would think. According to international statistics, nearly 75% of the yacht owners use their boats for a maximum of 2 months yearly, and pay for its storage for 10 months. Thus, yacht rental is more economical. If you don't want to learn how to handle a boat, you can also hire the crew. This is really a fabulous city that is worth visiting even if you're not interested in sailing. Not only the promenades are cleaned, but the water in the ports is raked by divers, thereby cleaning the objects thrown out of the boats. If we'd like to observe the aquatic world with the ground moving under our feet at the same time, let's visit the Sea Life Aquarium in Benalmadena. Spain's first underwater aquarium was opened in 1995, and yet it's still one of the most modern such institutes in the world. It's a guaranteed experience for children and adults alike. The coasts of Spain are washed by the Atlantic Ocean in the north and by the Mediterranean Sea in the south. Its coastline measures more than 3,000 kilometers, which is divided into 6 larger sections: Costa de la Luz, Costa Brava, Costa Dorada, Costa del Azahar, Costa Blanca, and Costa del Sol. Even though every Spanish beach boasts an excellent climate and doesn't lack beauties of nature, the most visited one is still Costa del Sol. Its sunlit sandy beaches make ideal conditions for a summer vacation and provide pleasant relaxation in spring and autumn too. Even in the coldest month, January, the daytime temperature doesn't drop below 16 degrees Celsius, which is about the average temperature of the sea at that time. The brave at heart sometimes greet the new year with a dip in the sea. In the summer, the sun shines 11 hours a day, and the air is cooled by the breeze blowing from the direction of the water. So the average temperature in July and August is 30 degrees Celsius and doesn't drop below 22 degrees even at night. Fuengirola lies in the exit of the fertile valley of Sierra de Mijas to the sea, surrounded by sugarcane plantations. It was built together with the fishing village Santa Fe de los Boliches. The name of the village was given by fishermen from Genoa using nets, who settled down here in the 15th century. Fuengirola, with 40,000 inhabitants, is a small but popular health resort. Its beaches are Santa Amalia, Las Gaviotas, El Carvasal, and Torreblanca de Sol. The countless multi-story apartment houses and the long-stretching sandy beaches would provide a droll sight if they weren't colored by the memorials of the past. A mosque stands in the city center, near the Paseo Maritimo. There are restaurants specializing in fresh lobster and crawfish in the old town, the Casa Viejo. The market, the Mercadillo de los Martes, conjures up an oriental atmosphere in the middle of modern houses every week. Fuengirola has the only zoo of Costa del Sol in which 500 species live in areas conceived according to their original habitat. Animals from equatorial Africa, the rainforests of South America, Madagascar, and Southeast Asia feel themselves at home in the zoo without cages and bars. We find a park aquatico between Fuengirola and Mijas, the specialty of which is the track imitating wild mountain rivers winding their ways among cliffs planted with cactuses. The once ambitious Andalusia lived its hard life forgotten by the world by virtue of a strange game of fate. The starting point of the exploration of the New World seemed to melt into the petty peasant way of life, which hardly provided a living. Then, in the 20th century, the world started to rediscover Spain. First, the lonely travelers came, writing travelogues which were devoured by the world. More and more people wanted to see this land with their own eyes. By the 1960s, there were so many tourists, it was almost equal to the population of a smaller European country. Mass tourism started to change into quality tourism by the end of the 80s. More and more settlements had been drawn into tourism. In the meantime, a healthy medium has been struck, and we should expect crowds only in the high season. On the hill beside the city, on the other side of the canal, lies an Arabic castle, the Castillo de San Isidro, also known as the Castillo Sohai. It was built in the 10th century, then renovated and reinforced as a defense against sea pirates. The charming city of Mijas clambers up a 430-meter-high mountain in the valley it takes its name after, just 8 kilometers from the beaches of Fuengirola. The settlement totaling 6,000 inhabitants commands a view to the Costa del Sol like an amphitheater. In the castle gate, there's a snow-white building like a castle, the local police station. Nearby, Mirada de Mijas, an observation deck, was built on the ruins of an Arab fortress and the rock chapel of the penitent Saint Blessed Virgin Mary, the patron saint of the city. And so many sights in the muddled tangle of pedestrian zones, especially at celebration time, in other words, fiesta or feria. At this time, crowds are also larger, but the spectacle is unforgettable. A procession is held at Easter and other religious feasts, the city dons flags on national holidays, and fireworks are hardly ever missing. The locals indulge in these occasions with all their hearts. Burro cabs, beautifully decorated donkey carts, and saddled donkeys wait patiently in the parking lot. The other possibility is to walk Andalusia's shopping window, as they call it here. Everything is about folklore here, but something still surfaces from the mood of the real Andalusia, the message of the 2,600 years passed since the foundation of the city, despite the buses of travel agencies or the crushing crowd. The really fascinating panorama alone would not account for the crowd of visiting tourists. To understand the charm of Mijas, we have to see the city built of stepped, terraced, snow-white houses, the wrought iron grids and bars like lacework, and the cobbled alleys. There are colorful flowers in every window, blooming bushes, and stone pines in the streets and squares. The main square is the beautiful Plaza de la Constitución. Here stand the City Hall and the La Muralla Church. Nearby, we can find an interesting miniature museum where we can see Leonardo's The Last Supper on a grain of rice or a picture illustrating a sea battle on a pinhead. There's a great tradition of different handicrafts in the whole country, such as tile manufacturing, making ceramics, and the majolica and pottery. Parts of the secular decorating motifs, especially the scroll and leafage motifs ornamenting the tiles, derive from the Arabs. A huge range of such objects are offered in Mijas, but the works of metal crafters are also not negligible. Spanish ornamental weapons are also famous and beautiful. We can buy swords, halberds, long-barreled dueling pistols, and knightly armor in different sizes to put on the wall. Whatever we buy, it's worth paying attention to the Arte España label, indicating approved products. Spain's one and only square-shaped bullfight arena stands at the highest point of Mijas. A bullfight museum can also be found here, giving a full overview of the favorite sport of Spaniards, with its objects, photographs, and contemporary posters. We can buy souvenirs here too, whether it be a painted bullfight poster or a muleta, a red cape used by matadors. On the coast of Marbella, 20 beaches spread over 20 kilometers. The city is the pearl of Costa del Sol and the only place on the beach from where hot air balloon pleasure flights depart. The ancient fishing settlement with 90,000 inhabitants was famous for its iron, lead, and graphite mines in the 19th century. Its old town spreads in the shadow of the old Arabic fortress. The city center is still bordered by the walls leading to the castle, and two battlemented watchtowers stand near the church. In places, the searing sand of beaches alternate with shade-giving pine groves. Though it's difficult for North and Central Europeans to understand, perhaps because they want to squeeze every minute out of their vacation, it's worth following the southern custom of siesta. The Spanish not only leave their workplaces at the hottest time of the day, but also the beach, if they're there. The hottest section of the day, mostly between 2 and 5 p.m., is for resting. It's true, the demographist stated that most of the Spanish children are conceived at this time. But what is the night for then? Well, it's for living social life. The siesta is also partially the preparation for this. Hispanics not only like feasts, but balls, dancing, evenings of entertainment, and great dinners. Young women wear colorful, frilly clothes, lifting skirts, young men in shiny boots, tight black pants, and flat hats. Boot heels patter, castanets click, dark female eyelashes flutter. Guitar music and the painful drawn-out singing, the cante jodo sound, the full scale of emotions lies in flamenco, from the zest for life to despair, from jealousy to love, from mourning to cheer. Though flamenco also includes learned choreography, there's a lot of improvisation in it. And if presented by good dancers, it can be a real experience. If possible, don't miss it when in Spain. Motorized traffic is prohibited on the narrow streets of Marbella's city center, but they wouldn't have enough room anyway. Besides, it's only possible to really explore a city on foot, taking in all the small details. The winding tangle of tiny narrow streets opening into each other forms a labyrinth of small snow-white houses with lattice windows, wrought iron balconies, and flower decorations. The detail is beautiful. The wrought iron lamps, the gateways, the small statues in recesses, the tile decorations, and the signboards of shops. There are fountains on the small squares. The colorful flowery bushes run up the walls of houses. The streets and squares are covered with ornate cobblestones. However much we should wind among the ornate, wealthy, and the more modest middle-class homes, our way finally leads back to the Square of Oranges. We can imagine how hot it is here in the summer months if canopies are spanned over the streets and squares. The old square's name, the Plaza del Ayuntamiento, was also apt, since the city hall built in the 14th century stands here. So the new name, Plaza de los Naranjos, is fitting, since the square is full of lush orange trees. The round fruits practically smile at us from among the dark green leaves. The whole square serves as the terrace of the surrounding restaurants, one of which has received guests for 5 centuries already. The square's busy all the time. One can have breakfast, lunch, or dinner here, or just relax with a coffee or an orange juice. The bustle is especially big at fiesta time. The Spanish love to celebrate, be it a religious or secular occasion. To truly know Marbella, you have to have also been in the modern area beside the old town. Of course, we're not thinking of concrete council estates running towards the inside of the land. Those are unimaginative, just like everywhere else in the world. But the coastwise hotels, shopping centers, and apartment houses give architects an opportunity to prove that modern architecture is also able to show something beautiful and interesting. Investors didn't scrimp with money here, and guests also spend a lot. The standard is obvious, with Rolls-Royces, Ferraris, Porsches, Jaguars, and Harley-Davidsons lined up next to each other in the port promenade. This is a special world, the citadel of luxury and elegance. In other words, Spain presents how the rich and beautiful spend their holiday, in color, on widescreen, and in 3 dimensions. The Spanish-born American film star Antonio Banderas visits his luxury apartment in Marbella during a break in filming. He's not the only world star here. Millionaire bankers and businessmen like to spend their holidays here too. They can afford palaces, mansions, castles, or former monasteries. By outsourcing the restoration of art relics, the government got rid of the considerable costs of renovation and continuous maintenance, thus gaining a sizable income. Guests gladly pay for the unparalleled atmosphere that is practically ingrained in the walls. Just imagine a candlelight dinner on a damask tablecloth with silver in a dungeon or a monastic refectory. The next day, the destination is new ports, new cities, new adventures. Some Parador hotels give a very significant off-peak price discount. Moreover, we can even buy real estate in Spain with very favorable conditions. The overwhelming majority of seashore apartments and villas fall into the hands of foreign owners in a way that they spend here just 1 or 2 months a year, while the realty goes for rent the rest of the year. The rent is enough to cover the loan installments. Buyers are tempted here with favorable loan facilities and low interest. The result is clearly visible. Ronda is one of the most interesting, scenic, and romantic places of virtually wild beauty. This used to be the land of bandits. Poets, writers, and painters recorded the figure of the outlaw bandoleros. 3 roads lead to Ronda from Costa del Sol, all of them dangerously winding serpentines, but they can also be approached by bus or train. The entire town, and as far as you can see in any direction, is romantic background, wrote Hemingway, who naturally arrived here to see the famous local bullfight. The old and new district of the city, built on cliffs, is connected by a 60-meter-long bridge, which is the main site of Ronda. The wild mountain river, called Guadalevin, runs 160 meters under the bridge. Construction on the bridge started in the place of former Roman and Arabic bridges in 1735. This is why it's called Puente Nuevo, meaning new bridge. Its builder was Juan Martín de Aldehuela, who suffered an accident during construction. After his death, 2 other architects finished the bridge, but the plans remained unchanged. Above the central arch, between the pillars, an assembly hall was created that used to be the city's prison. Chroniclers noted that really no one had escaped from here. Nowadays, people would rather enter, since a restaurant has replaced the prison, where reservations should be made well in advance. In the side wall of the El Tajo Gorge, the stairs still exist, which were hollowed out of the rock by Christian prisoners, and on which they carried the river water up to their Arab owners. It's possible to get off the mountain more conveniently on a motorway, and it's worth it because the most beautiful pictures can be taken from the bridge underneath. The old town, called La Ciudad, was founded by Arabs, while Mercadillo by Christian kings. The separate city-state of the Moors still remained when the area held by the Arabs shrank to the neighborhood of Granada and Malaga. In 1485, Ferdinand of Aragon started a successful attack against Ronda. This was the first time when Spanish artillery shot iron balls from cannons. Since then, the picture of the street bears the reminiscences of Muslim and Christian past. Though the Reconquista made mosques disappear, the baths and domed houses and the ogi gateways remained, just like churches and Spanish palaces. The poet Rainer Maria Rilke wrote a cycle of poems, Duino elegies, here. Today, an exhibition in his former hotel room reminds us of him. It's worth seeing the Gothic cathedral, the Renaissance-styled residence of Spanish emperors, and the Museum of Local History. The terrace of Alameda Square offers a superb view of the Pico de San Cristobal mountain range towering above the plains. Fertile valleys run along from the city to the foot of the mountain, olive groves and vineyards. Fragrant herbs and medicinal plants grow in the wild along the roads. The groups of cork trees form dark green islands on the land. Evergreens and blooming bushes cling to the rocks. It can be observed that everybody in Ronda, having either a private house, restaurant, or hotel, makes an effort to build in a way that the terraces, loggias, or balconies look over the gorge or the bridge. Well, panoramic rooms can be rented out for a higher price. Ronda boasts the oldest bullfighting arena of Spain, built in 1785. The native Francisco Romero was the first matador to brave the bull on foot instead of on a horse. Romero is also illustrated in one of Goya's paintings, in his most beautiful robe, in a stately pose. Opposite the arena, in the Romero restaurant, managed by the descendants of the toreador, we can eat dishes made, of course, of bull. The city has numerous good restaurants, such as the quaint Don Miguel, so if we don't desire bull, there's plenty to choose from. Especially if we agree with Hemingway, who wrote, "Andalusians raise majestic bulls, fight them wonderfully, and bring them to death breathtakingly, but they can't cook it." Well, there are things they do better. The one-course dish made of rice, paella, the cold tomato soup, gazpacho, and the cold tidbits, tapas. Depending on its quantity, tapas can be a starter or a main dish and can contain ham, sausage, olive, fish, seafood, and a lot of other delicacies. The ham of acorn-fed pigs living freely in the oak forests is marinated in the snow of the Sierra Nevada and dried in mountain air. This is the jamón serrano. It hangs on the ceiling of every pub and restaurant, and it is a sin to give it a miss. The Spanish are good at sweets, especially those with almonds. You can drink sangria, wine, or beer, but of course sherry takes the cake. It's called Jerez here, after its birthplace, the Andalusian Jerez de la Frontera, situated between Cadiz and Sevilla. Take advantage of the comparatively low price of sherry and Spanish, what's more, Portuguese wines. Local beers offer pleasant refreshment in the heat, such as San Miguel, while good sangria with fresh orange slices and grapes is available everywhere. Antequera, along the road from Malaga to Córdoba, makes us stop with its historic buildings. 25 churches and monasteries are found here, in which monks and nuns still live today, isolated from the world. Despite this, most of the churches can be visited. The biggest part of the more than 1,000-year-old city is built on a fertile plain, only its old town is hilly and terraced. There are many slopes and stairs, and Antequera can be conquered only step by step. Most of the area of the ancient Moor fortress has been landscaped, and some residential houses have also been built here. Not very beautiful, but they provide a good view. The remaining castle walls surround 2 churches and a separate bastion. This square belfry is the Torre de Papabeotas. Tourists, particularly when photographing, can roam among the fountains and ornate facades for hours. The Iglesia de Carmen literally stands out from the churches on the hilltop on a vantage terrace of the Moor fortress. The church from the end of the 16th century is made famous by the decorations of exuberant abundance and Mudejar-style retablos called Judigaresques by art historians. Its inner space is the work of a local artist, Antonio Primo, with altarpieces painted by José Medina and Diego Marquez in the 1700s. We can view the city from up here, including the Gate of Giants, with the arms of the city, and the 3-aisled, 3-fold, blind-arched gable of the 16th century Santa Maria la Mayor, with small towers adorned with tympanums. Farther away, our eyes fall on the Lover's Leap, from where the youngsters of the local Romeo and Juliet story, the rich Moor girl and her Christian lover, leaped into the deep together to unite in death. Such local legends can be heard in every corner of the world. Places like these set the imagination free. History is not only a sober school lesson, but perceptible reality. The words of Roland Mischke of Antequera, the excellent German journalist and author of numerous books and articles on Spain. After seeing the old town under monumental protection, we can take a trip to the nature reserve of El Torcal, 16 kilometers away. This is a rock labyrinth of 20 square meters. Nature has created an almost surrealistic land here, 1,300 meters high, on the side of Sierra Pelada. Mystic stone structures and dolmens are found at the edge of the city. Cuevas is the most significant memorial of the Iberian megalithic culture that is mentioned together with Stonehenge and the Maltese stone churches, or the recently discovered German Gothics. Everything relating to these structures is kept secret. We don't know who built them, or when, or why. A 25-meter-long, 3-meter-high corridor leads to a hall that supposedly used to be a burial vault. The wall system consists of 27 accurately aligned huge blocks of stones. Some of the blocks are around 170 tons, and their total weight exceeds 1,600 tons. The Cueva de Viena and the Cueva del Romerald, 4 kilometers away, were discovered in 1645 and have been declared national monuments. Give something to the poor blind man, because there's nothing crueler in life than to be blind in Granada, says a classical quotation. Whoever has not seen Granada has seen nothing, says another. So it's no wonder that tourists look forward to their first trip to Granada with exaggerated expectations. The most famous native of the city, Federico Garcia Lorca, described it with the following words: "Its color is silvery and dark green, the mountains kissed by the moon bathe in a wonderful turquoise color. Cypresses are awake and whisper languidly, filling the air with scents, and the wind changes Granada into an organ, with the streets as the pipes. Granada is a dream woven of sounds and colors." Centuries earlier, Arab poet Ibn Zamrah compared it to a lady embraced by the river. The city, with the snow-capped 3,500-meter-high Sierra Nevada in the background, is truly charming. But the reason why millions of tourists visit this place year after year is the Alhambra, the jewel built of stone. Alhambra means red in Arabian and refers to the color of the palace. The popular American writer of his age, Washington Irving, remembers his visit here in his famous sketchbook. The writer was the ambassador to Spain, living in Madrid, and traveled around Spain and Europe. His travel experiences are not recorded as a diary, but as a string of loose associations, novels, essays, and thoughts. His name is on a memorial plaque on the wall of the palace. The builders dreamt the fable of the Arabian Nights into the building complex, full of Eastern opulence, beauty, and luxury. The buildings and gardens are in perfect harmony with each other and the land. Gardens and plants play an important role in Alhambra. All this is colored by fountains, ponds, pools, sprinklers, beautifully trimmed bushes, alleys, and inner courtyards with palm trees. The oldest part of the fortress is the Alcazaba. This was built before the age of the Nasrids in the 9th century. Its watchtower, the Torre de la Vela, is 26 meters high. You get a fine view of the Sierra Nevada from here, while of the city from the square in front of the palace. When the Spanish reconquered the area of the Cordoba Caliphate, the escaping Moors moved their seat to Granada. The building of the royal seat on the easily defendable hilltop was begun in 1238. In the age of the Moors, Alhambra was a palace, and the construction of barracks, administrative buildings, mosques, minarets, baths, cemeteries, and stables completed it to create a closed sovereign town. Only the royal suites have survived till today. These also differ from the palaces in the Western sense. There's no uniform facade or symmetry. The water of the Darro River babbles in the fountains, ripples in the pools, and waters the plants in the gardens. The deep canyons along the river provided an extremely good strategic position for the attentively designed building complex entirely enclosed by walls, which was under construction for more than 300 years. The inner gate, the Puerta de la Justica, was the main entrance of the Granadan Sultan's citadel. The symbol of Islam jurisdiction, an open hand, is carved in the keystone of the gate that, according to legend, never reaches the key carved in the second gate. A long row of exquisite halls comes next, one more beautiful than the other, until we reach the Court of Lions. The stucco works are so finely finished that everybody uses the word lace to describe them. Colorful majolica tiles, carved coffered ceilings, stuccos, and walls richly decorated with arabesques. In many places, the decorative elements are quotations from the Quran, engraved with calligraphic writing. The builders were apt to use symbolic motifs, what's more, in some places, even abstraction. The use of keel-arched door and window frames, the harmonized ensemble of gilded domes, pillars, and arches ensure the place of the palace among the most beautiful buildings of the world. The Alhambra has been part of the UNESCO World Heritage for 10 years already. The buildings around the Court of Lions were the suites of the wives, children, and the harem. The well with 12 marble lions is a symbol of the eternal water of paradise. According to tradition, who drinks the water from the well of Alhambra, his manhood remains as strong and constant as stone from which the lions were carved. The Sultan possibly needed this, once having such a populous harem. The story of the Sala de la Antequera, opening from here, isn't so cheerful. 36 members of the patrician family for whom it was named were executed by Sultan Boabdil, allegedly out of jealousy. Others say he took revenge for conspiracy, or was he just set on the royal fortune? The most beautiful hall of the Alhambra is the Sala de los Almanas. Its dome is the largest of Arabic stalactite vaults, consisting of 5,000 niche-like cavities. The builders also used the acoustic and climatic effects of water for their great creation, just like the panorama included in arched frames. Even ill-wishers can't say that the city of Granada is only beautiful because the Alhambra can be seen from it. The city itself offers more than a few sights. The name Granada derives from the Arab word carnata, and not the Spanish name of pomegranate, which is included in the coat of arms of the city by means of national pride. Genio y figura hasta la sepultura, that is, nature and figure last until the grave, meaning basically, a tiger never changes his spots. It's the motto of many Spanish still today that is posted on the walls of houses. The cathedral is to be seen, among many other things, if only because the romantic marble tomb of Isabella and Ferdinand is found here. Catholic emperors considered the occupation of Granada and expelling Islam their lives' work. Therefore, their last will was to rest here. Their daughter, Johanna, and son-in-law Philip of Habsburg sleep their perpetual sleep. The realism of the snow-white figures lying on the bed make a real impression on the observer. It's the work of an Italian master, Domenico Fancelli. We can admire Isabella's crown in the vestry. She was portrayed by Sigourney Weaver in the film about Columbus. Like the one in Malaga, the cathedral itself is a beautiful and monumental building, which is no wonder, since the designer was the same. Diego de Siloé prepared the plans, and the same architect, sculptor, and painter, Alonso Cano, worked on the interior. Cano was a real artist. He paid his creditors with his plans several times, already worth cash even back then, but more valuable than gold in the long run. The dimensions of the church are almost the same as the one in Malaga, down to a half-inch. It's worth taking a look at the 16th century mosaic windows of the 48-meter-high Great Chapel, the main altar made by Ferdinand Bigarny, and the Renaissance baptismal font. The cathedral was appended with a Sagrario church in the 18th century that can be seen from the outside. Admire the eccentric Carthusian monastic quarters, the Badia Museum, and the Garcia Lorca Museum, located in the poet's holiday house. His birthplace is just 20 kilometers from here. Those interested can take a look at the other face of Granada, Albaicin, the picturesque gypsy district. The closed, tiny gardens called Carmen are found here. Three kilometers before Nerja is a dripstone cave estimated to be 20,000 years old. The lines of houses gather around the mouth of the Chiller River. Nerja is very lucky that due to its geographical conditions, it couldn't and probably didn't want to allow the construction of huge concrete buildings. Therefore, not only its private houses, but its hotels are also intimate and familiar. The narrow coastal lane provides excellent bathing possibilities, while the cliffs encompass the small, sandy bays as a defense. There wasn't enough room for the houses here, so they climbed up to the slope of the Sierra de Almijara. The bays are connected by a pleasant winding esplanade, the former road of patrols, the Los Carabineros. The shopping street of the city leads into a beautifully paved rock plateau near the parish church. This is the Balcon de Europa, the most beautiful viewpoint of Costa del Sol. The arched, sunlit houses with balconies and flowery squares of the city are behind us, and the blue of the sea in front of us. The scenery tempts us to go for a swim. A life-size statue stands beside the groups of tourists, but while they move, he stays and stares into the infinity of the sea. Not only sandy beaches turn into rocky bays here, the rocks of higher and higher mountains spear up behind us. The land after Nerja becomes wilder and wilder. At the feet of the Sierra Nevada, near Tabernas, we find the wild western scene village where Sergio Leone shot his famous westerns. A little America in Spain. Once upon a time in the Wild West, a fistful of dollars and the good, the bad, and the ugly were made here. The scenery of the village was left to the country by the director in his will, so you can visit it for a fee. Spain is not only famous for its beaches, but also its beautiful thoroughbred horses, partially left here by the Arabs, as well as its horse breeding and riding schools. Horses are important actors of bullfights and folk celebrations, the fiestas. When visiting the country, don't miss this special attraction, a real Spanish riding school.